CEO of Eskom has given them to supply chain without following the due process. But we were told that these wires are brought into Eskom to come and correct the corruption of black people. It is the same arrangement we have seen with the Guptas. The state capture tells us today that the Guptas were hand-picking companies to state-owned enterprises. The white CEOs are doing the same things as the Guptas, bringing companies without following the due process. I'm telling you this information, which is a public information. You do not know about it because this corruption is conducted by white people. It is not corruption when it is done by white people. Can you imagine if Brian Molefe had gone with 4 companies and said these 4 companies that are black owned are going to help us to transform Eskom? It is not something that is in the headline because it is committed by a white CEO. We must reclaim our economy, and there cannot be a reclaiming of the economy without a fundamental change. The white people tell you that the way you want to go about it, you are going to disrupt and collapse this economy. But the reality is, and I'm happy I'm speaking to the black elite here. Many of you have gone through renovation of houses. You know what happens when you renovate a house. There is disruption. There is no way we can transform this economy without disrupting this economy. We need to expropriate our land without compensation. Because when they came here and took our land, they never paid any compensation. It was taken through black genocide. It will not be for the first time that the state becomes a custodian of critical resource in South Africa. We know that the state is a custodian of mineral resources in South Africa. These mineral resources were before owned by private companies. And the state adopted a policy that made the state a custodian of mineral resources. We are now calling for the state to be of a natural resource called the land. It is not different from the mineral resources. That which we are calling for was done before through mineral resources. And when we say let the state be the custodian of the land, we do not mean that the Van Tonder who owns a farm there is going to be taken from Van Tonder. Van Tonder will own that farm even when the state is the custodian of the land. And he will only own it if he continues to do what is the purpose of that land. The day he stops farming, he loses that land and is given to a person who's prepared to continue farming in that particular land. No one loses a house. You continue to own that house for as long as it is used for residential purposes. But once you turn it into a massage parlor, it is no longer serving its purpose. Therefore, it must be given to a person who will use that land for the rightful purpose. This message, they understand it very well. They deliberately distort it. They even want to accuse those who are advocating for land expropriation without compensation. They want to accuse us for this recession. If we are in a recession because people can't trust the ownership of the land by black people, then let it be. Because when the land is owned by white people, there is no recession. But when it is owned by black people, it will lead into a recession. And you all join them and say, let us not own the land because it will cause a recession. Because black is what causes a recession. We must never accept that explanation. We are equally capable to own an economy. We are equally capable to own the land. And therefore there is no investor who must suspect us on the basis of the color of our skin. Because if you use the color of the skin to determine whether you are going to invest or not, then you are a racist investor who has got no place in South Africa. Will rather swim in a recession than to benefit from the proceeds of a racist investor who doesn't want the rightful owners of this land to participate meaningfully in the ownership of the economy. We want the uniform produced for nurses, for police, for soldiers, for patients in hospitals, for prisoners. Everything that has got uniform in this country and is owned by the state, that uniform must be produced in South Africa. We must have a clear policy about that. We cannot have traffic cops wearing a uniform that is written proudly produced in China, yet you say this is a patriot, a police officer looking after the interest of South Africa wearing a proudly Chinese uniform. It's an insult to all of us as South Africans, and I don't understand why our government cannot take a simple policy position that says the food we are going to eat in hospitals, in prisons, in schools, those food are going to be produced from the farms from South Africa. And if we are going outside, we'll go to Africa. Only when we fail in Africa, we'll go and try somewhere else in the world. We need to stabilize Eskom. We can talk all of this, but if we cannot stabilize Eskom, we are finished. Because all of this will require electricity. These independent power producers, we must scrap them. They are benefiting the few elite that are connected to President Ramaphosa, to Patrice Motsepe, to former Minister of Energy, Jeff Harden. We need to scratch them. Who said Eskom? Who said Eskom cannot produce an alternative energy? If there is a need for an alternative energy, why can't we capacitate Eskom to do the same? Instead of outsourcing this responsibility and giving to the family of the president. We had a problem here of a family called the Guptas. We shouldn't create another problem of a family called Patrice Motsepe's family. We must be able to say these things must be able to benefit our people, and the only way it can benefit our people, it is when it is state-owned. We have no problem with Patrice Motsepe or his family. We are disagreeing on the approach. And because in South Africa, when you criticize each other, you confuse that for hatred, because we suffer from self-hatred. We don't hate ourselves. We criticize one another because we don't want Patrice to fall under the same category as the Guptas. He should not make such a terrible mistake as a good businessman who will later be destroyed by the simple things that we should actually let go. Patrice should appreciate that his proximity to the president and being the brother of the wife of the president should take a little bit of a back seat, particularly when it comes to issues that involve the state. Because even if he wins them fairly and squarely, we'll always suspect that this one is a brother of the first lady. We thought we removed Zuma, things will be better. It looks like we're going into a serious crisis. We have delivered the country into the hands of the Ruperts and the Oppenheimers. Whether you agree with me or not, I don't care. Because I warned you about the Guptas in 2011. You only came to the party 4 years later. I know that the EFF is always ahead. And we are very patient with you. You always catch up later. I'm telling you now, we are controlled by the Rupert. We are controlled by Investec. We are controlled by the Oppenheimers. They have deployed Pravin to look after their interest. They told Zuma right on his face the day he removed Pravin. It's not a joke. They went to him and said, we will collapse this thing if Pravin doesn't come back. And when those white CEOs went to tell Zuma to reinstate a minister, it was not a state capture. It was not business interference. The white owners of the economy told Zuma that if you remove this one, you don't reinstate this one, we will collapse this economy. We'll take that which belongs to us and leave. Johan Rupert made a similar remarks here, that if D.D. Mabuza becomes the president of South Africa, he will be left with no option but to take what belongs to him. He's in a way telling you who you should elect. You are being told and dictated to by white monopoly capital who should become the next president. And knowing these ones of my relatives in the ANC, they are likely to listen to what Rupert says because they are scared of white capital. We must never be scared of white capital if we want to transform the economy. Coming to you, black business, you seem to be extremely comfortable to manage the economy of white people. Many of you do not engage critically against the status quo with the hope that you will be called upon to serve in a particular board or to chair a particular board. You want to be in good books. At the same time, you claim to be advocating for transformation in business. You will never transform it if you are going to sweet talk the status quo. The only way you are going to transform it is by taking a radical position and standing firm on that position. You rather die with your boots on. You cannot be these flexible people who are unprincipled, always seeking to be politically correct. Leaders who seek to be politically correct represent nothing. They are actually political amoebas. They are shapeless. They change form and shape as they go along. The EFF's year, the theme of the year is a year of action against the racist financial sector in South Africa. It is racist, all of it, because we are all profiled. Even Motsepe is profiled. By virtue of being a black African, we are all profiled. We are treated like we are criminals in South Africa. As long as it's a black person, extra measures are taken to see if you qualify for this loan. If you die and it is reported that you are dead and even death certificate is supplied, more investigations are made to confirm if you are dead. Because you are a criminal even when you are dead. They can never trust you. We are being profiled. It had to take a black family to carry a dead person into an old mutual offices in Durban to show them that indeed this person is dead, because death certificate is not enough for financial services to be provided for black people. So we can talk anyhow we want to talk. Without a radical stand, we are going nowhere. We want to depend on white people to transform the economy. You even want the market view. You want the rating agencies to come and tell you, who are this rating agency? Who are the markets? Those are the same people you want to take over from. And you say to them, we want to come and take over from you. Help us to take over from you. It will never happen. The EFF lastly has taken a decision to establish a private school from grade 0 to grade 12 owned by the EFF. Why? Because we realize that black people with money do not own schools. They have private jets. They have private resorts. They have got game farms, but they do not own schools. It takes less than what they own to just build a private school. After this resolution, I've not met Patrice because I wanted to ask him, why are you not owning a school? Even if you name it after yourself, it's your money.